that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited right now, right now.
Cool? Yep. I like that, short, sweet. And true. You're on the meter. Awesome. All right. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm still waking up this morning, so bear with me here. Our Sunday services are being live streamed. We are on YouTube now, which is awesome. We're reaching so many people. It's great. Like our daily word shorts, I think are getting really good views. So new people are seeing it. It's great. And you can donate to us by going to PayPal. We are Unity of Billings, or it's just unitybillings@gmail.com on PayPal. Our website is unityofbillings.org. And there's a donate button there too. So you can just click on that. And we have a wonderful summer solstice sound bath coming up on Thursday at 6:30. What's the name of the gal doing that? I can't remember.
Connie Johnson and Charlene.
Connie Johnson and Charlene, yep, so it should be really fun. I haven't been to one yet, but I'm really hoping to be able to make it to this one. So I'm excited about it, I hope you are too.
They're awesome.
It sounds pretty great, I'm pretty stoked. All right, and then for June speakers, today we have Rev Danielle Egnew again, doing How Do I Actually Hand It Over to God? Which is a great question. Big question. And then on the 23rd, we have Reverend Edie Weigel doing Heartfield. And on the 30th, we have Reverend Orlando Worthington doing Secrets of Belonging. So you have a good one for you here. And now if you'll just kind of settle in for the Unity song with David Raven.
Every thought and feeling, every spoken word, what your soul has longed for, what your heart can feel, is already here, is already real. There is no one out there, there is no one else. You hold all the answers deep inside yourself. There's a voice that whispers, there's no you, no me, there's just one, there's just you.
Well, yeah, but that's okay. We'll allow it.
I keep looking for one.
Have to wait for a heavy rain and then go to the winds.
You're right.
Last year when they were coming off the rim.
Okay, now I'm gonna light the Christ candle, which symbolizes the Christ consciousness in all of us. Yes, oven lighter. Oh, and now we'll read the daily word, which is Father's blessing. So perfect. If you'll look on with me. I bless my Father with loving thoughts of gratitude. Today I bless my Father and the father figures I have known with thoughts of love and appreciation. The man I call Father may or may not be related to me, but he has touched my life with love. I give thanks for those fatherly figures who selflessly give their time and love to help me grow into the person I am today. Their demonstrations of patience showed me how to give others space and time. Their humor and lightheartedness taught me not to take myself too seriously. Their guidance and trust encouraged me to be independent and trust myself. I would not be the person I am today without the lessons of love and wisdom shared by my father. In so many ways, sorry, I'm getting emotional. In so many ways, he gave me a strong foundation on which I built my life. I am grateful and blessed with all he has given me. Honor your father, Matthew 15:4. Matthew, come with me again. I bless my father with loving thoughts and gratitude. And our Unity Foundation principle. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. Lovely Unity of Billings affirmation. Through divine wisdom and grace, Unity of Billings is vibrant, healing, and inclusive. And love offering blessing. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am grateful. We have some music. Pass the things. And let's just hold our love offerings in our hearts, whether you gave online or whether you gave in person. Just hold that love, that giving in your heart, that generosity, and really see it going out into the world and doing its work. See it doing its work here in the church and out in the community. And feel it rippling out into the universe and doing all the things that it needs to do and reaching all the people it needs to reach. And that's a wonderful thought that we can make that kind of wonderful. All right, and now it's time for Rev Danielle Egnew. Pause for effect. On here. Go ahead.
She looks on, that's good. That's good. How are you guys? Happy Sunday, good morning.
Good morning.
And some of you I had a wonderful, hi. Some of you I had an opportunity to hang out with last night at my show at Craft Local, so that was fun. That was wonderful, and thank you everybody for coming today. This is such a wonderful opportunity to have everybody, guys. And today's message, I was thinking, you know, Robin had reached out and she's like, hey, we have this Sunday to do a message, you know, and I was thinking, oh man, you know, I've got this show on Saturday night, and after this beautiful service, I'm skedaddling down to Bridger. They're gonna hold Father's Day brunch for me, so I need to get down there. And I was thinking of all the things, and I said to Robin, if you could give me a second to get my stuff together, let me know if, you know, what I can do here. And I had to find out some things from the venue about loadout last night and all these things. And I literally, you guys, went old school. We're gonna talk a little fun about, because old school is actually new school if you do it right. That's the thing, and there's a trick to it, I'm telling you. So I went a little old school, original school, and I said, okay, well, if you want me talking on Sunday, then what are we talking about and how's this gonna work? And miraculously, all the venue things that were an issue ironed out. And my family moved the brunch back an hour, and all of a sudden I got this topic. You know, I got the big beam in on the topic, and I thought, well, guess I better get my Sunday best. Guess we're going to church on the 16th. Okay. So first and foremost, happy Father's Day to any fathers out there. If you're a biological father, if you are a father by love or marriage, if you're a father by influence, doesn't matter. You can be a father. You can father something in many ways, just like you can mother something in many ways. It's beautiful. So today we are talking, guys, like I said, we're going old school, which is original school, which is now considered new thought. If you think about that wraparound, that is quite something, okay? So we're going to go all the way back to how do I actually hand it over to God? Like, what does that even mean, man? You know, you read about all of these things in the past in the Bible, and you read about Jesus. I'm a giant fan of Jesus. I never hold Jesus responsible for the identity theft that has occurred around his name. I never do. I'm a huge Jesus fan. And you look at Jesus, and Jesus went out into the wilderness by himself for 40 days and just listened to the universe, okay? Now that's one way you can turn it over to God. How many of you have enough vacation time for 40 days and 40 nights in the woods? I'm just curious. If you do, yeah, girl, yeah. Exactly. I was gonna say, if anybody can tell me who has that work environment, I'm getting a job there. So, you know, we don't have that particular opportunity to template after our holy books masters oftentimes, because we don't live in that world where you can just unplug and just go into the wilderness for 40 days and rock on for Jesus. What a great opportunity. Most of us, you know, have a little sliver of time between coming home from work or coming home from our daily responsibilities and getting all the chores done and getting all the dinner on the table. There's this little sliver where you have to argue with yourself. Do I call the midwife, or do I do some sort of reflective time here, you know? Does the great God Netflix take your time? It takes a lot of my time. You know, so how do we actually turn it over to God? Well, when I was sitting here saying, can I actually even do this Sunday service? I was in a process of just turning it all over. So I am going to share with you what Spirit shared with me. Because the idea of turning it over to God, does that not sound a little ominous? Right? You know, hi God, I'm Danielle. I'd like to turn this over to God. What if it's not that big of a thing? What if it makes you feel weird that you're even doing that? Because maybe it's a little thing by cosmic standards. You know, maybe you're worried about a loved one, or you're worried about money, or you're worried about a house closing that you've always wanted, or you're worried about keeping your car because times have been really tough and maybe you missed a few payments. You know, money's real tight right now, you guys. So maybe that, when you think of turning it over to God, it seems unworthy. Yet here's the deal. Mother, Father, God, however you look at your power, okay? That lives here. That's inside of us. We have an unlimited source within us that is that God energy. And almost every time I get up on this beautiful platform, you guys hear me say the same thing, which is Jesus, who came forward and said, all of these great things, miracles, beautiful things that I do, you will go do in greater. You will do them in greater than I do. And his disciples were like, He's like, yeah, no, really, that's the thing. So we have this miracle capacity that is innate to us through the spiritual fabric of being part of God, okay? And it's really interesting because we can take words and turn words into weapons, can't we? A word can turn into a weapon that can destroy and tear down. And it's grieved me as a pastor of coming up on, wow, how old am I? Oh, 30 years now, 30 years. It's grieved me to watch the word God be turned into a weapon. It grieves my heart. I could cry. And you know why? Because, well, first of all, God is here. So that means we are weaponizing ourselves against each other, first and foremost. Secondly, it means that this beautiful entity, being, collective consciousness, however it makes sense to you, I got news for you. God could care less how you understand God. God is just happy that you are in some sort of relation with that energy. It doesn't matter what you call it, him, her. It doesn't matter how you relate. It doesn't matter if your church is this gorgeous building, or if you go up on the rims and you sit there and look out at the great Yellowstone River, one of the very last undammed rivers in the United States of America, if not the last. It's gorgeous. We will meet God where God wishes to meet us. God will meet you where you wish to be met. So when I hear God turned into a weapon, I think, oh, you might not know this beautiful being. Maybe you're not acquainted with yourself on the inside to even feel your own miracle potential. Maybe that person who's turned God into a weapon is so cut off from this infinite love and from this incredible compassion and this overwhelming desire to provide and to connect that maybe they're angry about it. So maybe they make God into a hammer instead of a pillow. I don't know. I can't speak for God in this way, and I can't speak for people who want to weaponize God in this way. Yet to turn it over to God, if we've made God into a weapon, that's a weird thought. You know, I'm not turning my problems over to my Smith & Wesson. That gets awkward. That can get violent. You know, I mean, you don't want to turn your problems over to the weapon. So how do we actually turn it over to God? I was shown something awesome that I got to do for myself around this beautiful service, and even being here, Robin, and I want to share that with you. Turning it over to God is the process of release, guys. It's release. It's release of the heart. It's release of the mind. It's letting that executive function prefrontal cortex right there take a back seat to the limbic system and take a rest. Because that prefrontal cortex up here, guys, this is what, obviously it's our executive functions, but it's what keeps us safe. It's the strategizer. You gotta watch the prefrontal cortex though. It can get programmed in some weird ways chemically. It can be hyper-stimulated by trauma. You know, our hippocampus is in the brain. And God made this amazing, amazing computer that's about, what, 3 pounds or whatever it is. It sits between your ears. It's this amazing computer that works off of chemical impulses. That's how smart this creator was. That's how smart creation was. And some people, I had a person one time said there's no such thing as creation, it's evolution. And I said, well, great. Yeah, I believe very much in evolution. Let's call it all. God is the all. You know that's what the angels call God? They call God the all, the all. It's all. It's great. It's everything. Big party, big party. So when you're looking at turning something over, how do you do it? Get out of the executive center. That executive center is programmed chemically to have you trigger worry over and over and over and over. Worry, 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 worry. That's what it does. It needs to solve problems constantly. You know why? Because the people, the hominins, the human beings that exist on this planet today, their ancestors lived. They didn't get eaten by the bear. They didn't get burned by the fire. They didn't go and say, oh, what's this volcano? Ah! I mean, the ones who lived were problem solving. So it is a genetic human trait to chronically hunter-gatherer solve ahead in order to make sure that we have safety. Now, the difficulty with that, guys, is we don't know when to draw the freaking line. Okay? Our ancient peoples, they would have that going on in that moment. Ooh, there's a mammoth, gotta eat, let's go, all 9 of us, here we go. And as soon as the mammoth, then okay, let's get the mammoth gutted, okay, let's bring it back, okay, let's eat that mammoth. Boy, we have a lot for stores. Now I can relax the brain. We have a culture now that hyperstimulates us all the time. Hyperstimulates us through our screens. And I'm not saying I'm not a screen person. I am Gen X. We have unnaturally attached relationships to our phones, I admit. But the thing about that, guys, is when we talk about giving it over to God, we must have room here to even relax. If I'm gripping something, guys, and I just got the death grip on this, okay? Now, if you take this and you wrap electrical tape around my fist, how am I gonna let go of that? Now, even if I wanna let go, I am restricted externally. You see what I'm saying here? This is what I was shown. This is what Spirit showed me. We put mental masking tape around our thought process and say, well, there's only like 3 ways this can happen. And then when you want to relax, because you can't figure out the 3 ways, you're just sitting there gripping still. Remember, God is within. The Christed Jesus is within you. Within you. Not out here. Not in a book. Wonderful to read about it in the book, but it's not Gandalf, okay? So it is alive. The Christed Jesus is alive and moves through all of us. So if you want to give it over to God, the first and foremost thing, if you feel like you're kind of a ping pong ball against a glass ceiling, is you've got to realize that are you ready for this? Again, old school, new thought. We are not the strategizers of the whole universe. Weird, right? Because we probably have an app that would do that on our fabulous phones that suck a lot of our energy. We are not. What do we need in order to undo this? We need to trust that if we do, we won't fall over, right? Trust, 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 trust. That is giving it over to God. It's trust. Anybody have problems with trust sometimes? I know I do. Yeah, I do. You know, and especially nowadays, where everybody is spinning everything just to get the clicks online, because that's how they sell advertising. May not even be a true thing they're talking about. They just want the click right here online. Trust. Do you know you can trust the inner you? Do you know why? Because the inner you is absolutely fused with God. You don't have to believe in God. I don't have to believe in that chair. That chair is still going to exist whether I believe it's a chair or not. It's a chair. It is what it is. So, and it is not dependent on my belief to exist. That's the interesting thing about Mother, Father, God. It just is. Like gravity or other Newtonian forces. So what's so fabulous about this is that we can trust that there's something that just exists, that you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it God. This is church. So, if you understand that there is a presence that is air traffic control for all quantum timelines and doesn't even want to control it, it just is it. It is the great synchronicity of all multiverses. God is the great synchronicity and flow of all harmonies and even sometimes disharmonies, because those create harmonics, and those harmonics create vibrations, and those vibrations go out into the world and create change where we don't even see it. Every great drama we've ever watched in the movie theater has a villain and bad things happen and everybody learns, lots of people come together. Sometimes the villain even has a character arc where they realize their owie gritchies cause them to do awful things, but they're not a bad person. They just maybe had bad behaviors, right? And there's redemptive quality to it. You know what's funny? How many of us pay $14 million for a movie ticket and then actually go to the movies and sit there and not trust that storyline the entire time? How many of us do that? You sit there and you're like, oh no, that Luke Skywalker, he's secretly working for somebody else. Darth Vader, what? That's gonna be a rabbit. You wait, it's gonna be a rabbit, and this whole thing's a joke and it was a dream. I mean, do you just watch the movie? Do you just trust the story on the film? Look how much trust we have for a film. We pay our $75 million and we sit down and we watch the movie and we trust the story. Why do we have such a hard time when it's real life and not crafted life? Shouldn't we not trust the film? Couldn't the film be a manipulation? Couldn't the film secretly be trying to undermine your goals and choices because it's crafted in a 2.5 hour time frame? But we trust the movie. So where's our trust for the universe? I'll tell you where it is. We have demystified God. And that's great, but we almost took away some of the miracle potential of God. And that means we take our own miracle potential away. How do you really give it over to God? Okay, I'll make up a fictitious freakout, all right, that maybe some people share. I am working my tail off. I now have 2 jobs. My rent just went up $500 a month. My food prices have tripled. And my gas is, it does what it wants because OPEC does whatever it wants over there. But, here I am, and I can't work any more hours in the day. I'm a single person maybe in my story. And I'm out of time. I do have to sleep. Now I'm out of time. And I can't see past my survival needs being triggered. My survival needs are being triggered. So I can't see past that. Because I got millions of years of DNA of people who didn't fall into a volcano, okay? I am looking for danger. I'm looking for it. So how do we turn it over? It is a decision, folks. It is a decision to trust. You know that old, I can never pronounce his name correctly, I'm going to mispronounce it. Is it Descartes? What is it? Descartes, thank you. Yes. The French philosopher, not to decide is to decide. Right? Not to decide is to decide. And Jesus talked a lot about that too. Jesus talked about complacency. I'm just going to sit this one out. And Jesus is like, well, you sit this one out, then you're condoning That's what it is. You sit it out, you're saying, okay, amen to whatever that behavior is. And there were all these folks back in Jesus' day that said, but Jesus, if I get involved in this, I don't want to be seen as an agitator and a weirdo and, and all those aforementioned things, the rent, the food, the blah. Guys, this has been going on as long as humans have been on this planet, as long as there has been greed and avarice. There have been people struggling to make it. So back in Jesus' time, Jesus was getting that question. Okay, Holy Master, well, some of us just can't go on the mountain because everybody gives us stuff all day. What do I do? And Jesus said unequivocally, trust your Father. Trust. Just trust. The birds of the, we all know the parable, right? The birds of the air are fed and the grasses of the field are nourished. So why do we flip out so hard? Because we do. Because we have the DNA of the people who didn't fall into the volcano. We are hyper active in trying to solve problems. But in order to turn it over to God, it is a decision to trust that there is a system that is greater than our mighty ability to concoct a resolution to it. Now that's different than blindly giving away your faith, you guys. Okay, I want to make a distinction here, and I'm being called to make a distinction here. It's different to have blind faith in whatever and to chase every single thing blindly. God bless you if you're that person. I never had that much faith in my life. And I've known people who have. And you know what? I think there's a part of that that's a really beautiful, powerful trait. Not talking blind faith. I'm talking deciding to trust that there actually is a system, God, that is larger than you. That if you just relax that executive function center, let that go to the limbic center of the brain, which is technically, if we were to speak yin and yang, the masculine center is the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system is the more feminine. Let both aspects of your brain have a shot. If we're only working out of one, it creates imbalance. It doesn't matter which one, it creates imbalance. So if you can trust that God is here and not out there. There's 3 ounces of electromagnetic energy that leaves the body that medical science has documented over and over again when a person dies. And they don't know where it goes, and they don't know how it got there, and they don't know what it even is. I'm going to call it the soul, because that's fun. So you've got the soul in here, and if we are to look at our beautiful Hindu brothers and sisters, and Hinduism is the oldest documented religion on the planet Earth. If we are to look, technical religion, of course, we've got the spirituality of indigenous peoples all over the world, of many, many, many backgrounds and tribes, who oftentimes gets overlooked as far as being ancient and valid. However, Hinduism, if we want to look at sort of an organized religion, is the oldest documented one. And if we look to our Hindu brothers and sisters, what we find is this incredible ability to understand that we are all one being. They didn't separate us out. The ant is important as the plant, is as important as me, is as important to the water particles, which is a lot like our indigenous nations' way of looking at the earth, too. Things got a little rocky as we went through some different religious iterations, and the need to do things like subjugate others for political purpose and to get their money, using God as a weapon. But that's not the God in you. That's somebody else's idea, and weirdly, on planet Earth, we're all allowed to give our version of God a run, even if it's nothing at all. That is allowed. If I want to turn God into the most evil monster ever, it's allowed down here on the theme park called Earth. I wouldn't recommend that because it's hard on you. It's hard on you. When Jesus said, trust the Father, of course, back then we're dealing with a Hebrew culture. Jesus was Jewish, and Jesus was a mishmash. Jesus went and studied out east. He went off and learned all kinds of things, incredible things, and brought them back to his community. And often as we do, when we leave the home base and come back, people are like, well, there's that Jesus. spouting all that crazy Eastern religion. And he wasn't well received, actually, at all. Not at all. They thought he was a wacko. They thought he was just memorizing the Old Testament and trying to pretend to be the false prophet, or the prophet that was foretold in the Old Testament, or the Torah. It wasn't called the Old Testament, y'all, because guess what? Christianity hadn't been forged off of Jesus yet. There was just the Torah. That was it. And the Torah today is the Torah of 10,000 years ago. The Jewish nation and the Jewish people, those words are sacred. You don't mess with their words. You know, one of the hardest things for the Jewish community is how we in Christianity took the Torah and made it into the Old Testament and changed it all over the place. Did all kinds of things. And the poor Jewish community is like, these are our beautiful words. Words have weight. Words do have spiritual weight, you guys. They do. Now we've got folks like Tony Robbins and other people talking about the weight of words. Words have weight. So for these beautiful folks to just guard their words for 10,000 years, and then to have some king come in and say, well, I need to borrow that. I hope you don't mind if I really mistranslate that. I'll basically leave it the same, but it needs to back my agenda, so sorry. But this was heartbreaking. So we want to talk about trust. How do we let go? How do we trust? When even our book, if we are to look at the Christian Bible, when even our book has gone through so many iterations, how do we trust? Well, perhaps the secret lies within and not externally, right? Perhaps that's exactly what's been trying to happen here. Maybe we've been having broken trust issues with external issues because we're supposed to go here. This is where God resides within all of us. Years ago, Pastor Culliver Brookman here, I don't know if y'all remember Culliver. I love Culliver, what a great human being. And I was doing some pastoring, more of it here. And I just absentmindedly one day kind of pointed off or up when I was talking about God. And Culliver is a triple Leo. So she stopped me afterwards and she was like, you know, why are you pointing up here? God is here. And I said, God, did I do that? And she's like, you absolutely did, 4 times. And I went, wow, I don't want to do that. God is here. God is here. And she just smiled in her Culliver way. God is here. Now, how many of us would not be able to find God maybe in there? Because it's, how do you distinguish between what you feel and what God is? Guess what? You kind of can't. Because you and God are hermetically fused. You're soldered together. You are part of the quantum field. Every quark in you is part of that God field. You can't separate it out. And people will say, but I'm an individual. Well, yes, you are. So is God. When God is not, and neither are you. Welcome to Hinduism. So, you know, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. How do we trust? We decide to trust. To not trust. Man, Jesus had a lot to say about that. You know, Jesus would say things like, woe to you, O serpents, who will not hear my Father. Now, granted, that's the English translation of some High Greek, which was a lot more explicative. A lot more explicative. Jesus was saying somebody was a snake means something different now. So we can trust. This is an example that's just given to me. You breathe every day. You don't think about it. It just happens. You don't think about it until that breathing is challenged. But it just happens. Your heart beats every day, every second. You got a heartbeat. You don't think about it. You just trust in that system's working, don't you? You know why you trust it's working? Because you were born into it. It is natural for you. You know why you sometimes have a harder time feeling and seeing God or Jesus within you? You were born into it. It is natural. And we have learned bizarre things. I always want to believe churches are well meaning. But we have also learned some pretty bizarre things to take God outside of us and put God over here and make us the big fat loser, sinner, maggot under God's heel because we suck. That's a lie. That's a lie. Sure, we're imperfect. Sure, we have things we could probably do better. Hello? I'm a walking, talking visual aid for that concept. I mean, there's a lot of things we could do. But you were born into the presence of miracle with God. That's why you don't notice it. That's why you can't find it. Because it's like breathing. You think about breathing? So next time you go and you need to turn that thing over, my rent went up, my money's running out, I don't have any more time in the day, perhaps I have a sick relative or my health has taken a negative turn, and we can't get to see how it's going to be better here. Trust that here is not the center of the universe on the map of all things. I know y'all don't think you're the center of the universe. I don't either. But when we're flipping out, we sure do. And it's because we are chemically reacting to stimulus. Did you know God made us with that 3 ounces of electromagnetic energy inside of us? It's so fun to communicate with our flesh through triggering chemicals. The chemicals are the physical translator between all that energy in our brain and our body. We have chemicals that translate our spirit to our flesh through what our Hindu brothers and sisters call our chakra points. I mean, think about this magnificent system, man. And all energy is connected, right? We can't destroy it, like look at Einstein. So that technically means if you're having a trust problem, that 3 ounces of energy that's running your machine, that's chemically triggering off and making your body understand what you need. If you can't trust God, trust that energy in your body, because that energy is absolutely connected to Jesus' source, to God's source, what else you want to call it, to the Allah source. It's connected to all 10,000 iterations of the Hindu gods, which, by the way, folks who were raised in a Christian environment, Hinduism does not believe in 10,000 individual gods. They believe in one God broken off into 10,000 different descriptions so that we as little bitty people can understand how God works. So we give them each an identity. But, you know, we love to say things in the Christian community like, well, those are pagans worshiping a multi-armed lady who's blue, you see. Okay, that's no weirder than worshiping, crucifix, which quite frankly is a torture tool. I could be wearing a guillotine, you know? I mean, really, it was a torture tool. Think about that. The holy guillotine. But this is what we've chosen. The worst portion of suffering is what we've chosen as the Christian church to represent Christ. Not his raising, not his miracle potential, not his power, where he suffered a bunch. Praise the Lord, you know? Wow! And we wonder why we have a hard time trusting God within us. Guys, the best part about this message today is it is about deciding to release. You know, the angels, I talk a lot with angels, and the angels say acceptance is release. Acceptance is a process of release. So if we can just accept that we don't have all the answers, so that might make you mad, that might make you sad, that might make you panicky. That's okay. Those are chemical responses. You're in a human suit, it happens. Don't fault yourself, okay? However, get through that portion and release. Just decide to accept that we might not have all the answers, that we might not have the entire map, because we don't. We have a pretty good map, most of us. But our map is flat and small. And when you look at the dimension of this universe that God inhabits, the multiverses, Marvel multiverses, right? We think about that. I was so excited to see multiverses finally addressed. I'm a physics nut, so I was just like, yay! But all those multiverses in every direction, the commonality is the God energy. It is the particle of love. Now, some of those multiverses have a little less love than others, but that is the common thread. That is the common thread. That's not just me making it up, it actually is the common thread, like that's a chair. We don't have to believe it's a chair, but it's still a chair. It is the common thread, so trust that when you say, I have no idea how I'm gonna pay these bills, I have no idea, you know what? When you feel that, you ever blow a breaker in your house? You guys, have you ever blown a breaker? You got the microwave on, you got the hair dryer going, you know, and all of a sudden you hear this click and the whole house goes dark. You're like, oh boy. We blow breakers in our brain all the time, don't we? Right? Just stuff starts going and it's huge and we can't see the end of it and the breaker blows. When your breaker blows, try not to push yourself to that point, but most of us do, so let's be real. When your breaker blows, that's where you get the opportunity to trust, to accept that your breaker blew, and to release it. Like a bunch of butterflies, or a group of doves. Just let it go. They're like, I have no idea how I'm gonna get this foreclosed rent thing gonna take care of. You know what? I hear you're good with this. See, now, Culliver would be yelling at me because I'm pointing to the ceiling. I hear you're good with this. I hear you're great with this, God. I still talk to clouds in the sky when I'm talking to God. I talk to clouds. You take it. I can't do it. And let it go. Put it out of your head. If you had the world's greatest personal assistant, then you pay $150,000 a year to, because this individual can do everything. They get your taxes done. They make everything go away that's bad. They get everything in your life shwoogied so gorgeously that you don't have to do anything but go out on your boat on Yellowtail Dam, or go walk around the park, or spend 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, because that personal assistant is that good. You might know people who have that personal assistant in real life. Now, if the individual who hired that person didn't trust them to do the job they hired them for, that's going to get awkward. But they do trust that person. They trust that person to handle it all. Why do we not trust this miracle capacity, consciousness, being to handle what we can't see? Our map is flat. It's tiny. It looks like a cocktail napkin. It does. I've looked at it energetically. I'm like, that's my life map. It's like humbling, right? Because I don't consider myself the most dull cookie. And I'm like, oh, I got this big plan. And I look at it energetically and I'm like, oh, I could hold a beer. Great. All right. But the entire map, the quantum map of probability, possibility, miracle potential, everything we can draw into us if we allow it. I can't even tell you, I don't have a visual for it. It looks like expanding spider webs in 50 million different directions, except it's made of light and it never stops. And this little thread over here draws upon something over there 22 trillion light years away in a second. That's how it works. As we were talking last night, it's all vibration. It's the vibrations. So let it go. Try it. It's not going to do you any harm to trust the universe, right? It's not going to do you any harm to trust God. Whatever you call God, whatever face you give God. I have a friend who thinks of God like a feather. I'm like, great, I'm sure God loves being a feather rather than a guillotine. I'm sure that's probably nice, you know? So allow yourself. How do you do it? Trust, accept, release. I can feel it in y'all. There's a shift on the inside here in this room. You know, lots of warm fuzzies from here to here. You know, in the tummy and the solar plexus and the chest. That's where our God center is. That's where we share. Every cell is a God center. And I'll leave you with this, because I love my science. I love it. DNA is fascinating. It must exist separated inside of a nucleus of a cell. It can't even touch the flesh of the cell or it's destroyed. It has to have a little translator called RNA. And it's a little choo-choo train that goes into the DNA. The little RNA goes in there and gets all the little pieces, ingredients it needs. And then it choo-choos back out of the protected environment that that DNA is in and goes out to the cell and says, oh, by the way, this is how you mend a broken arm. But the DNA itself, guys, is in literally a different vibration than the rest of the cell. And if that DNA touches the flesh is at a lower rate than the DNA. You know, and what happens when something moving at a lower rate, it's something moving at a faster rate. That's the poor little mosquito on your windshield of your car, right there, that's what happens. So the DNA must stay preserved in the center of the cell, floating with all the answers to not only the physical problems in your body, but the spiritual ones too. You know, it's really only the first, 11 or 12 rungs of DNA that work with your physical body. The rest, they don't know what it does. I'll tell you what it does, it hooks everything else up. We just don't know how to study that. Because think about it, guys. What useless effect in nature that has zero use gets passed on through evolution? Nothing. If you don't have a use in nature, evolutionarily, you are eliminated. So you're not just going to carry around all these extra runs of DNA to do nothing. It's not the way it works. So why? Why can we not trust? With all the scientific evidence, with all the energetic evidence within us, why can we not trust? Because we decide not to, because we think it's going to keep us safe. And here's the big jazz hand ending, everybody. Not trusting will not keep you safe. It will keep you separate. It will keep you limited. It will give you a false equivocation of safety because you will perceive your cocktail napkin as all the answers, and that's fine. There's a lot more out there besides that. And earlier on in the talk, I did distinguish between blind faith and running after everything and God. I'm talking about God. You can trust that vibration inside of you. You're alive, aren't you? We're all here. Even after my raging party last night, I'm here. So, we're all here. You can trust being alive. If you're walking, if you're upright, if you still have that 3 ounces of energy in this flesh body, you are still attached to Mother, Father, God. You are still attached to that Christ consciousness. You're going to be attached to that Christ consciousness even after you're out of that body. Because the energy doesn't separate itself. It is within you. To not trust within ourselves is a form of great self-hatred. We don't need to go there, guys. We don't need to be perfect. Jesus doesn't need us to be perfect. Jesus wasn't perfect. Jesus did a lot of cussing and screaming and throwing tables and calling people vipers, and which means something else now, and just all kinds of things. Yet Jesus understood how to embody the trust. And that's what Jesus was here to teach everybody as a spirit teacher. Hey guys, I can do this too. You want water into wine? Knock yourself out. You can do it. No, I have a cocktail napkin. It's okay, it's not really a cocktail napkin. It's a cool Marvel universe. So, decide to accept that the cocktail napkin isn't the be-all end-all. Release when your breaker blows and say, you take it and put it out of your mind. Put it out of your mind. Truly put it out of your mind. And then watch the miracles roll in. Because that's when we have the potential to see God work. We don't give a chance for God to work. God can't show us the fireworks, man. We're too busy making our own fireworks, doodling on our own little cocktail napkin here. Give it a minute. Try the system out. If you don't believe me, great. Good. I hope you don't believe me. I hope you go out there and you do this yourself just to say, what's she talking about? Fine. Take it. I don't care anymore. My life goes to hell in a handbasket. It's that weird lady's fault. I don't care. Go for it. And let God show you the miracle that is shared within you and is you and is God. And blessings on everybody this beautiful, beautiful Father's Day. Thank you so much for having me.